awesome.
Welcome to this.podcast, the dopest podcast in Denver. I'm your friendly host, Jay, joined by my friends. We got Co.
Man, what we talking about?
And we got Uncle Damo.
Hi, my name is Uncle Damo.
You can find this.podcast at linktree/this.podcast, and we'll just meet you where you're at. Shout out to the incredible Lawrence and Larimer for providing the space. You can find them at lawrenceandlarimer.com or 3225 East Colfax Avenue. We're recording on a Saturday, y'all.
Hell yeah.
We got a very special guest, and I'm very excited about this guest. He is a Overland alum, so we claim him in Denver, Colorado. Former NFL player, a thought leader, public speaker, and a writer on gender, race, and orientation equality, and now the vice president of inclusion strategy for product at Netflix. Let's welcome Wade Davis to the show.
Yes.
We are so excited about this, Wade.
I'm more excited, though. I'm just going to.
Are you?
Yeah.
Hey, and talking to the mic, bro.
Yes.
You
I
can,
remember
you
that.
can move it towards me.
Yeah.
You good? Well, we've been trying to do this for a while.
I know, man.
You've been, I know you're a busy man.
And I've been watching, though, but I've been watching.
That's what I'm talking
I've been watching.
That's what's
A lot
up.
of
man.
I'm 2 episodes behind, but I'm watching.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. Because we get a lot of feedback by way of Damo through you. So we know you're watching us, you're rooting for us, and supporting us, which is awesome, man. That means a lot to
It
us.
does.
Honestly, man, like watching the episodes, I typically watch in the morning when I'm working out. And every time I'm laughing, I'm forced to think. I'm forced to interrogate like my own BS. And I'm just like, man, like these dudes got something here. And I'm just excited for where this can go, man.
Yeah.
Man,
All of y'all are so different too, which makes it dope.
but the crazy thing
like
about
that.
it, man, is kind of preparing for the show. I was interrogating my own BS in terms of just saying, okay, Wade's gonna be a lot. He already gives us a lot of dope,
feedback.
constructive feedback.
Absolutely.
All right, now what am I doing, man? I'm putting the tequila down.
Why?
I'm coming in here.
Why? I drink too.
No,
Well, it's just early today. I think
no.
that's the reason why.
No, not because, not for that reason. It's just because I want to make sure I got all my wits about me.
No. Because this brother here.
In this conversation. Like,
No, because he's sharp as a tack. And,
yes.
I had the same sentiment, Co. I was like, all right, man, I'm going to be on Wade. I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at his TED Talks. I'm making sure that I see CNN interviews because I know he's going to come in here and he go flex on us on something. And we just
And I hope y'all
be
flex
ready.
on me too.
Exactly.
Like I hope that this is actually like a conversation
That's
where
exactly what it is.
Where you
It is, bro.
debate me like I ain't always right,
Yes.
you know, and I'm
Yes,
still
sir.
learning and growing. So man, I am honored to be in y'all's presence,
Appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
and I got some
man.
fresh new clothes too.
Yeah. Hey, you talked about that. So we talk about the guests a lot, but like there's this experience when you come in to the shop and you called Lawrence and Larimer the unseen character. Tell us more about that.
So like when I'm watching the show, I want to know what's happening in the background because you all bring either the owners up, you talk about the clothing, you talk about just the ambiance and the experience. So I'm like, wow, like what does the spot feel like? What does it look like? And to come in here, because your show, as I was telling Court, right, feels very vintage, like old school, like Aretha Franklin, black, and then the shop matches that. Plus I got some gear, again.
Yeah.
But I need that.
And we need our
they,
cut,
us show.
JC. We've been bringing people to buy some gear, man. So
Yeah.
this is the owner, JC. Shout out to Lawrence and Larimer again. But to your point, that's awesome to hear, man, because we want to create more of an experience and a lifestyle rather than, just a bunch of talking heads. Like,
Support black business.
And support black businesses, man, because they showed support for us. Like, I brought the idea to JC, and he opened his arms up and was like, of course, man. Like, that's what we all about. Here, we got a dope spot, dope scenery. Let's do this, and here we are.
That's black love, man.
That is.
It is.
Yep.
So, for you, we're double excited just because you represent a community that we haven't had on the show until you. Like, we talk about it a lot. As far as the LGBTQ community, plus community, and it's dope to have you on because I seen your TED Talk, and is it okay if we talk about that?
Definitely.
Okay.
There's nothing that's off limits.
It was the mask of masculinity.
Yeah.
Beautiful story, nicely told, and it hit me in a bunch of ways. I even feel like it was a little bit ahead of its time, just slightly.
I love you, man.
About a year, 2 years before.
Love you, man.
And I want you to talk about, and not the TED Talk specifically, but just some of your life story of you playing athletics and what that meant to be first masking the masculinity and then bringing a new perspective to it. Can we just have a conversation with that?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in the South in Shreveport.
Arkansas, right?
So I was born in Arkansas.
Shreveport is Louisiana.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was born in Little Rock, but I spent most of my childhood in Shreveport. And I grew up playing a game that we probably all heard of called Smear the Queer.
Oh yeah,
Right.
we all played.
Absolutely.
Right. And at that time, I didn't know what the term queer meant, but all that I knew was I enjoyed playing this game of football. Right.
Right.
And I wasn't the best, right, but I was one of the kids who, could get his stuff off from time to time. But we used to play in my backyard because there was a fence that went around my neighbor's house and my house, but there wasn't one in between it.
Got it.
Right. So we would have like 30 kids in our backyard playing Smear the Queer, right? And if you can score
That's a lot of
on
kids.
30 kids,
yeah.
right?
Sweet.
And there was this one kid named Todd, right?
Okay.
And Todd was the smallest, but he was the best, and I was second best. I was like, how is he better than me?
Right.
I'm taller than him, like we got the same legs, the same calves, all the same.
He had a
stuff.
little more fear than you did.
He has something.
He's in fear.
He has something. No,
yeah,
yeah,
because
he right.
so,
right.
so
he had less fear, right?
no more,
No, more.
more.
More,
'Cause
yeah.
This is why. So I liken Smear the Queer
Yeah.
was a game that, like, for example, it wasn't a lot of training, like this individual training and shit growing up. So like we had these games that
It was
were built
learning on
to,
the job.
yeah, like you had these on the job training games that we
Learning
had.
by fire.
And basically what it was you against the 30, 29. It was you versus 29. And how do I get from point A to point B through 29 people?
And you got to go the long way, right?
Yeah.
So the ball
Got
is
it.
thrown up in the air, right? And then like somebody's trying to act like that they're going to grab it, and you grab it and you try to go, and every 29 other person is trying to destroy you.
Yes.
Yeah. So he just had a tad bit more fear than you.
And then sometimes when you throw it up and you're trying to decide if you want to take that ball or not, right?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
you might be like, all right, I'm going to wait for
It's
him
like a
to
game of
take it.
double dutch almost, when you're trying to jump in. Exactly.
Hey, what would they call that game in 2022?
I think it's called throw up tackle now.
I have no idea.
That's what it's called?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I'm sure some people still call it
Oh yeah.
Smear the Queer.
Yeah. I'm pretty
In
sure.
Shreveport, they definitely call it smear.
I think in the South they still.
Yeah.
Yeah, so growing up playing that, and also just watching. So my dad was a big Bears fan because he's from Chicago. So I grew up loving Walter Payton, Richard Dent, all those types of players. And the strange thing about me is, like, as you can tell, I'm not a big guy, but the game came to me intellectually relatively easy. Right, so I could watch a play and almost guess what's about to happen next. I'd be like, oh, screen. You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain.
So
as
your
you know,
cerebral is just on a different level. When
I
it
don't
comes to
know
football.
about that, but
Come on,
like, because like you could let's say it's 3rd and 13,
Certain
right?
things you can eliminate.
There's certain things you can eliminate, right? So screen draws coming, right? Like depending on the down and distance, like depending on where they are on the field, right? If they're backed up, they're not going to take as many risks, right? So the good players understand that, like these things are more likely to happen,
Got it.
and
That's how he was too.
Yeah.
because he played corner, right?
Yep,
as
yep,
a cornerback, you have to have a process of elimination in order to increase your likelihood of being successful, because
Exactly.
we're at the mercy of somebody else all the
Yes.
time. Like, our game is reactionary only,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right.
So we're cheating. We're thinking, like, how close is he to the
Yep.
to the
Slash.
sideline?
Is he inside the slash? Is he outside the slash? How far away from the sideline is he?
Exactly. So all of those actual things determine, because I know Courtney was a dog. I know Courtney was faster than I was, right?
Right.
So let's say I'm guarding Courtney and he's faster than me, right? I got to know, like, what are the things that I can utilize to make to lessen his speed.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So as a kid, that stuff came relatively easy. And then I moved to Colorado when I was in 7th grade.
Got it.
And then that's where I started playing more formalized football. I played for the Mount Bello Falcons because I've heard the
I'm a Marbella Falcons guy too.
Hey,
I only
respect to
played
them.
like 2 years, but
They stayed
I
away
started
from
out-
Skyland. They stayed away from Skyland
They
Park.
sure did.
They
Please,
kept their
man.
asses right there in
Falcons was
Marbella.
nice.
See, I'm a little older than you know,
man.
but when I was playing, like the Falcons were y'all's biggest rival.
No,
No,
didn't work like that.
Park Hill.
Yeah, we never played the Falcons.
Y'all never came out to because we
never-
was like Aurora's teams, man. So
It was kinda like
Shamrocks-
that.
Now come on now, man. The Shamrocks.
it-
The Shamrocks,
Yeah,
we
we
played the
played those
Shamrocks.
teams.
Yeah, but I think what it was, I think it was that, you know, like you have these countries who both have nuclear warheads and they just staring at each other.
it was like Russia against
It's
USA.
like we want to do it, but do we really want to do it?
Who'd you play for?
The Pirates.
the Pirates.
I remember watching the Pirates. I
played-
felt like we played them.
I played
don't think so.
for
We definitely played the
Pirates.
Shamrocks.
No,
Yeah,
we was like
yeah,
Shamrocks.
yeah.
We were like Aurora teams.
We never
Okay.
never locked up, and the closest thing to the Montbello Falcons I experienced was I remember Coach Herman had this all-star 8th grade team, and we had some of the Montbello Falcons come over there and play with us. Of
course you did.
My boy Carlos. Shout out to
Shout out to
Carlos,
Carlos.
man, for coming over to come play with us on the all-star.
And they were the better players.
Me and Carlos
clearly,
played soccer together. man.
when they joined.
Hey, let's go back and pull the nose of the airplane
Yeah.
up and go back to what you were talking about of like all this anticipation, planning, and understanding like the game of football, right? How does that translate into the real world?
So I've always thought that the sport of football gives you lots of, let's call them transferable skills.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can play a position on the football field, right, like you have to actually be a strategic thinker. Like if you're one of the better players, you learn how to work with different people, right? So you are playing with people from different backgrounds, different races, all of those actual things, right? So you learn how to communicate across different types of barriers,
Got
right?
it.
But when we talk about the athlete, we don't think about those skills. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Or
No.
it's hard for people to articulate how it's transferable.
It's fair,
Yeah.
right? And I think because the black athlete is so dominant in the zeitgeist of like sports, we have to also interrogate the ways that white supremacy in how it informs who we think that athletes are and can be, right?
So stay there. Dude.
Yeah.
Go
So
deep on that.
if you think about Ryan Fitzpatrick just retired, right?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, the article in ESPN, the very first line said former Harvard player, right?
Right.
Right. And they say Harvard with intention. He's always described as going to Harvard, right?
Prestigious.
Exactly, right?
Education.
Right. But Weber State, no one's associating Weber State with a certain level of intellect, right?
Fair.
So if you're associating this player as going to Harvard, you have already changed the perception of who he is and who he can be on the field, right?
True.
You went to ASU, started up as a party school.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So one of the challenges that I think that we have is to hold people accountable for when we read an article about, let's say, a Ryan Fitzpatrick versus
The dude who passed away, and then it was a former player that just passed away, and they had to take down the article. The guy on, not Woj, he tweeted. Oh goodness, what was his name? Yeah, he played football, and he got in some off the field trouble, and that's what they referenced at the beginning of the article.
Marion
Troubled
Barber?
player. What'd you say?
Marion Barber.
No.
Okay.
No, and so I'm sorry, but it's going into what you're saying. It was troubled player. I think it was the dude from Ohio State, Haskins.
Oh, Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
Yes.
Yeah. Quarterback for
Pittsburgh.
the Commanders.
Yeah, and I apologize. Bless his heart, and apologize for forgetting his name. But they talked about his off the field troubles first, and then talked about his death. So it goes like based off of what you're saying. It holds true.
Yeah, so part of it is how do we reimagine what the benefits of sports are, those transferable skills, right? How do we reimagine what we as black athletes are capable of? Because if you look at LeBron James as the first active billionaire, you got to be a genius.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be a genius, right? Yeah. But is LeBron given credit? He's given credit for his social justice work. He's given credit for his on the court work, right? But is he actually given credit for the genius? No. Right?
No.
He's not. Because you're right. To your point, they always lead with, I mean, of course, he's, top 10 basketball player and, all that stuff, which people should talk about because that's what got him there. But to your point, they never lead with his business acumen and the things that he's done as far as a businessman in America.
He changed the model.
Oh, absolutely.
He changed the entire model.
Which which is intellect. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, you don't become one of the top 10 greatest players ever without being smart. Like, it's impossible.
Possible.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just to piggyback on that, to your point, like, he started that at a young age. So he was like, his intention was, all right, I'm going to bring my Maverick, Rick, I think, is that Rick Paul or Rich Paul?
Yep.
Going to bring them with me, learn from, mentors and people that are in the business. So then later we can cut ties or however we want to do our business as far as, agencies, Hollywood, media, all those things. And now look where he's at today.
Look where they are at today.
Or they, yeah. So he brought people with him.
Yes.
Based off of his vision.
Absolutely.
Who didn't go to college.
Yep.
Hey, don't get me started with that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Don't get me
Damo
started.
gets heated when he talk about that. We might say that for a later.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to you, Wade, and just talking about the experiences that you've had as a gay man, a gay black man, and a feminist. I want to throw that in there because I think you're a big advocate for women's rights. Is it right to say specifically black women's rights, or is it just all women's rights?
It's all women, but I do have a
priority.
A priority, yeah. And the reason why there's a priority is that, like, so I was groomed in the bell hooks world of feminism, right? So the very first feminist book I ever read was a book called Feminist Theory from Margin to Center.
Okay.
Right. And the idea behind it is that if you get those of us who are closest to the margins or like, not within the center of society, right? Yeah. And you make sure that they're good, what you build for them will benefit everyone else, right? So it's this concept called like the curb cut effect. I'm sure you all have heard of that, right? So when you
can you talk about that?
So like if you see a curb now, right? Like you'll see like that there's a part of the curb that's cut, right? So people in wheelchairs can go up on the curb. That didn't exist prior to the 1970s.
Got it.
Right. So what happened was that folks who are disabled went to Congress. Like they tore some shit down. I mean, like they really raised hell. And then what happened was that Congress passed laws that you have to have a cut on every curb. But here's the brilliance of that, right? Who else uses the cut curb?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yes, everybody
right?
does.
If you're a skateboarder, you're riding bikes. You're a delivery person, right? So that was done specifically for people in wheelchairs, right? But everybody benefits from that, right? So if we know, right, that black women more often than not are the furthest away from the power structure, right? So I, as a black man, right, if let's just own like the white men they're the dominant group. I can connect to white men via my maleness, right?
Absolutely.
White women can connect with white men via their whiteness, and also they're in the home with them, right?
Absolutely.
What connectors do black women have?
Yeah, and what's wrong? And there's nothing wrong with cleaning up your house first.
Say more.
So you said like, yo, my primary. Now, so I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said all women is my focus, right? But
yes.
Yeah, it's about all women. However, I do lean towards women on the fringes.
No, but
hear me out. Just let me finish it. Yeah. Let me finish what I'm saying. Now, in my opinion, I'm like, no, like it's cool to focus on black women.
100%.
And to be intentional about that.
Right.
I'm focusing on black women. And my focus on black women in terms of empowering them, in terms of putting them in positions to kind of
prosper,
equality, right, is like you said, is going to cause that
tide to help everybody.
That tide to and being okay with that, because one thing, I have a really good Hispanic friend, and we were very intentional to say, look, man, there's nothing wrong with being pro-black. There's nothing wrong with being pro-brown. There's nothing wrong with being pro-white. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I think because once we build each other's culture up, eventually it works out for everyone. And I totally agree with what you're saying.
I may challenge the pro-white one, but
Yeah,
you go ahead.
okay.
But if I'm
That's what I was gonna
white,
challenge.
but so if I'm white, I can't be pro-white.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like that's crazy. Like I can't.
Wait, let them answer. So,
Wait.
like,
So
how
how
do
do
you
you
push
get
back?
centered? How do you get centered with other groups?
If
No,
you're
no, no.
pro-white,
If you're pro-dominant culture,
okay.
how do you understand how you can lift the tide for others?
But that's what they are, though.
What?
If I'm white, I'm white. There's nothing wrong with me being okay and supporting white culture. There's nothing wrong with that.
Is
I
there a
think-
such thing as white culture?
Yes.
Such as?
That Starbucks we go to. That motherfucker. That shit. What else?
Man, what we talking about?
Shit do I gotta say?
So I would say that there's
Ink coffee.
I would say that there's no such thing as white culture.
Okay.
Right? So I would say that within the group of white people that you may have like Jewish culture, you might have Irish culture, right? But whiteness is, to be honest, it's not even real, you know?
Okay, tell us more
Right?
about that. What do you mean?
So when the Europeans first came over to America, right?
Yeah.
What did they call themselves? They called themselves Irish,
Italian.
Poles, Italians, all of that, right? It wasn't until we got here, right, that they wanted to that they needed us in order to galvanize themselves around a certain identity that was opposite of us. And if you look at the census, right, the census is one of the best predictors of like what's happening in the world, right? So the census over time has evolved, right?
Yes.
So at first, like folks who were Irish had to check Irish on the census. They couldn't even check white.
Got it.
Right? So whiteness has evolved and expanded to maintain control, right? So you have people now in Miami or in Florida, right? You have people who are from Cuban descent,
Yep.
who check whiteness. Who
True.
check white, right?
That is true.
So whiteness it's a social construct. It's just like blackness is,
Right.
right?
So if I'm from Scandinavia, I can't be happy I can't be proud of being Scandinavian. So am I
You can
saying
be proud
I'm
to be Scandinavian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing
So-
wrong with being proud of your history and your ancestry.
So it gets tricky, though. It gets tricky. So us as African Americans, we don't really know where we individually come from in terms of Africa, right?
Right.
So how about maybe taking that out of the equation? Because if a person can say, I identify with my whiteness, right, then they can section it off, right? I can identify with being Scandinavian. I can identify with being Norwegian. And a lot of them can track directly where their roots from. But then the trick comes in to where when you start looking at the DNA, they can fuck around and have roots in fucking West Africa.
Oh, everybody's from Africa.
yeah.
And no, but understanding that and owning it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
North Africa, like
So maybe we just say, look, man, I'm working for the people who look like me. I don't know first.
But I think too.
like just keep it that fucking simple.
I love it.
No,
If you look like me, I'm working for you primarily, and then whatever residuals effects come off of that, then that helps everybody else.
But I think it's you're right, and it's a little bit complicated when it comes to people, right? Because you look at people in a traditional sense when we say black, Africa, diaspora, right? And then today, some people that would be considered black are like, to your point, like Cuban, Afro-Cuban, things like that. They're like, no, I'm not black. I'm
Yep.
brown, or I'm not even brown.
I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Cuban. Yeah. Right? There you go.
Yeah,
yeah.
Let me hit the air horn.
I'm
'cause, like,
Dominican. I'm Dominican. I'm not
black.
African American.
And they be
but
like
you're-
darker than me, and I'll be like, well, okay, and I'm not gonna have that debate if that's how you
And
feel.
to be real, because like if you were to go to Puerto Rico, if you go to
That's a prime example.
South Africa, if you go to Brazil, like they have different racial paradigms and racial logics, right? Like you probably would not be thought of as black in lots of places. You would not
Really?
be. Yeah, you would not be, right? Just because like our skin color is infinitesimal, to who we actually really are, right? But to label you as black in America was done with intention to keep us apart. It's just like, for instance, right? Like, why do some white people want to say the N-word? Because they want to be a part of something, right? That they've never had access to, right? But when you call some word the FAG word, right? Like you're trying to distance yourself from that, right? So it always depends on like what we deem as valuable.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
You know what
like
I mean?
that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like what's valuable? So like there's a term called like that's sus, right? That's suspect, right?
Yeah.
Because what I'm weighing in is your value to me, and I'm trying to question whether or not, right? So here's something that happens on this show that he and I have talked about, right? Sometimes y'all will say the word pause after you say something, right?
Talk to us.
Right?
Yeah, now you podding. Now you podding.
Talk to us.
The question is, what are you trying to distance yourself from? But what are you also trying to kind of move yourself toward at the same time, right? I used to say it too.
Ask Courtney.
What you mean?
No, we all
What
guilty
you
of
mean?
that.
Ask
I never say that.
Oh,
Never.
Mike would say it all the
So
time.
you've never said no homo, pause.
Oh, I've said no homo.
So it's the same thing.
But not recently. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, I
So-
said
Man, he run it. He run it. See, you
So,
see,
like,
He
what
said
are
the
you-
N-word
again-
one time.
Yeah. So
You know what I
It
mean?
was during the song.
So like that's a good question for you
No,
all.
that's a
So
great
like
question,
when you
man.
say it, what are you running
Yeah.
from and what are you running towards at the same time?
Yeah.
what? Not to keep it 100, but you're running towards masculinity, whatever version of masculinity the individual deems, right? So and I only say that specifically based off of your TED talk.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because I called James. I said, okay, I processed a TED talk, and I was like, yo, I really want to turn this into, I want to steer this to getting your definition of what masculinity is, right?
Okay.
So when somebody says pause, for me, it's like, I'm trying to put it out there that, I'm straight.
So you're running towards straightness.
To your point. That's what I'm saying, to your point. So I'm running towards straightness. I'm putting it out there, right?
Right.
And it's a joke, right? And it's not, I'm not saying it's a good joke, but it's a joke, right? But I think with that being said, what is your definition of masculinity?
So my definition, it's individual, right? Because we perform masculinity. It's not something that's static, right? It's constantly evolving, right? So the idea that someone would have to say pause means that they're running towards a certain stereotypical historical idea of masculinity that is so far away from being queer or being gay, because to the fear-based conversation that we were having about the smear of the queer, right? Like, you're afraid that if you're associated with queerness, that you're going to be unsafe. Like, that's just a fact. Because I did it too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because like, what would it mean for you all to say 90% of my friends are gay, but I'm straight? Like, how do you think the world would start to perceive you?
Oh, it's gay.
They would think you were gay.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, and if you imagine in your mind that being gay is this awful thing, you're going to run from it.
Yeah.
Man,
Jay, do you mind if can I go deep on that?
wait, because I want to stay there, because I think what Cole just said is like, when you say pause, like, for me, it is that it's more of the joke in it, right? In the trend.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like bending towards the society norm of like, and it might be implicitly or unconsciously, I'll say that, of like, when I say something and I'm like, oh, no, my boy's about to say something, pause, you know what I mean? Just to cover or whatever and try to be funny. But what you're saying, I think, is dope, because I have, gay my aunt's gay and my uncle was gay, right? So me growing up, I had I don't want to know if it's neutral, but I was used to it.
You had models.
I had models of like, oh yeah,
And you have
gay.
proximity. If what
I
we
had
talked
proximity
about before.
to it, so it wasn't foreign to me, and I wasn't ashamed of it because I love my family, right? So me growing up, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because to football and getting to Courtney's point, we sometimes consider like that's one of the most masculine sports that you can play, like one of the most brutal, gladiators, stoic, etc. Whereas I wasn't engulfed in that. Like, so I was, sometimes I would be funny and kind of, have if I was trying to be a comedian and talk about being gay, like I snap the fingers or something like that, just being funny. But for you, what does that masculinity mean of like, what does it mean?
So for me as an individual, it's like masculinity is this idea that I have witnessed primarily from my father, my uncles, right? And it is something that I was running towards because I thought it would make me safe. And that would look like sitting like this versus sitting like this, right? It would also mean playing football. It would mean that I was really good at double dutch, but that's what the girls were doing, so I went to play football, right? So what masculinity is, it's a performance of an idea of what men who are, like folks who historically identify as men do. That's all that it is, right? Because and you just said, right, that you would snap your fingers and all that stuff. Like that's a performance of historical ideas of femininity, right?
Absolutely.
And because it's not rewarded, and the reward is key, right? It's not rewarded oftentimes by men to do things that have been historically thought of as feminine. So we go, I ain't gonna do it because there is no benefit. But there's benefits in saying, pause, no homo, because it allows you to be a part of a group. And we want to, and so what I'm getting at is like, it's not even nefarious, it's almost human nature because we want to be a part of something because to Courtney's point, we feel safer.
Yeah.
Right?
And a part of the dominant culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this dives even further into this. So Wade, like we have our whole text group, and Wade, like he's always throwing out hot topics in there. It's either me, him, or our boy Keenan throwing out hot topics. Wade threw it out there, like as a part of a book that he's writing, is why do men, specifically black men, get mad at when somebody calls you a bitch?
Like those are fighting words.
Those are fighting words, man.
Absolutely.
And
why
I'll
is
let you
that?
take it from
And
there.
why is that? I know. Why?
I guess, initially, it goes back, and I'm guilty of it. It goes back to that, like, you are calling me less of a man, and you're making me feminine.
And I can
in
have my
some
way
capacity.
with you. And I can have my way with you.
I'm docile, submissive.
And I'm not gonna let nobody think that they can have their way with me. And maybe that's just the masculine. Maybe that's just the. Let me ask you, Wade, is that toxic masculinity if I say?
So
like,
I don't
look,
believe
man,
in that whole
Okay.
So I don't believe in the
okay,
idea that
okay.
masculinity in itself is toxic, right?
Okay,
We can do
thank
acts
you, Wade.
that are
Thank you.
toxic,
Thank
that are
you, Wade.
problematic, but
Got
no.
it.
Wade.
Yeah, man.
And thank you, but that's what evokes from me. So if you call me a bitch, that make like James said, that makes me feel that I'm less than, I'm weaker than you, and you can have your way with me.
So can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yes.
How can a word make you feel less than?
Man, because I know it describes what you're thinking of me.
Words hurt.
Words hurt.
Words do hurt.
Are you comfortable giving up that level of control and identification?
I'm not, but I'm human. So we
Yeah, that's a great
I
question.
wish
That's a great
I
question.
wish I was at the level of life, man, to where
Yeah, man, just walk in
I could deprogram myself
Key, you could just walk
to
in
not react to normal human stimuli.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's almost like if you calling me a bitch would liken if somebody walked up to my wife and slapped her in the face.
That's physical touch. though. I
No,
think that's different,
but
though.
that's how it makes me feel.
feel,
Like I'm not talking about in a literal sense. That's how it would make me feel.
No, I respect that.
Because then now, what do I have to do? Like,
you have to act.
Am I supposed to sit there and ask why'd you slap her? Like, no, I have to act on it. But that's how it makes me feel inside. You know what I'm saying?
I just thought about the Instagram message that. Remember, it was that big old dude that. It was like an Instagram skit. And,
oh yeah. Let's slap the girl's ass. And what you gonna do?
So,
oh gosh.
So,
hey, but like that's such a good question, dude.
Do I got time? But do I got time to sit back and rationalize why he called me a bitch?
Hey,
no.
But it's just,
but so there's a quote by Audre Lorde, who's this like really powerful, famous black feminist, and her quote says, "If I did not define myself for myself, I would be smashed in the imaginations of others and eaten alive." Right? So the idea that someone could call you a bitch and that defines you means that you're allowing other people, right, to dictate, right, not just who you are, but how you see yourself. Wouldn't that be, right, the opposite of being a man, of a stereotypical man? Like, so are they not still doing the thing that you're trying to prevent them from doing?
Yeah, Wade, I'm just not that mature.
Deep. That's deep. That's deep.
Wait, I gotta be honest.
I love the honesty,
I gotta be honest because
I'm not that mature.
Because look, man, I'm sorry, man. Like, yeah, maybe, yeah, I'm just not that mature to say.
So does it equate?
I love the honesty.
Does it equate to like a white person calling you the N-word?
Yeah.
So you agree that, hey, don't give somebody that much power.
What people say about you says nothing about you and everything about them. It says nothing about you.
Yeah, but the fact that you don't know me and got the audacity.
But that's the thing, they don't know you.
But got the audacity to try me like that. Like, it's almost like to James' point, to Damon's point in terms of the N-word, right?
Yeah.
We give it a pass because we say, if I say it to you, Wade, you understand what it's a term of endearment, right? But then if somebody white says it, then well, it depends. It depends on that context. But as friends, as friends, it's like yeah, it's a term of endearment. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then if somebody white says it, it hits different because they may not even know you. You may not identify yourself with being a nigger, right? Right. But when they say it, you're like, dude, you just tried me because I know what you're insinuating behind that. A dude ain't gonna call you a bitch unless he got some negative feelings about you and he wants you to react to that shit. Like bitch, like saying bitch and saying inviting dudes to this, you know what that's gonna invoke. So dudes just ain't just randomly, recklessly throwing that out there like that.
Yeah. I got you.
So if you throw that out there like that,
thoughts.
we got some issues.
And I love the honesty, right? Yeah. Because what you're modeling, Court, is like an ownership to say, I ain't there.
Yeah,
now,
I ain't there, man.
But I believe, though, the fact that we're having this conversation, you'll think about it again, right? And then when the situation happens, maybe you'll be like, oh, that ain't even about me.
And I'm peaceful. That's the crazy. I'm a peaceful person. Right?
So, Damo, let's get your thoughts,
no,
man.
I don't want to like take it too far because, like, when I tell you this was one of the hottest topics that we talked about in our text thread that turned into a Zoom call.
Recurring topic.
Oh, man. I'm talking because you have some hotheads in that text group. And it, like,
somebody called somebody a bitch, said, I'm fucking Zoom calling you right fucking but clear across the goddamn world.
What'd you say?
What you say about me?
Hold on, everybody on Zoom. We gonna address this shit.
Hey, but like to me, I just think it is a very, very good question that makes you reflect just in general as you grow, Courtney, as you said, like, hey, maybe I'm not that mature, but like for me, it just made me think, like, what does this word really even mean?
Nah, that's crazy, man, because for me, dang, I probably would react like Co.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like, all right, let me take a step back. I would try to, like, I'm definitely going to say something. Okay. You know what I mean? And then I'm going to be like, I'm going to try to be like witty and, you know, try to be funny or whatever and try to, you know, deflect or, you know, try to snap back the best way I can by being peaceful. You know what I mean? Like, any way I can.
Hey, Jay, you be like, your mama.
Exactly.
Your mama's a bitch.
Yeah, and then
to those things. and it kind of escalates, right? And then to your point, it's like, it's not only the masculinity, but a little bit of its ego, right? So if it's like just two of us and, you know, somebody's walking down the street and, you know, they own something and they throw that out, I might like, all right, man, I ain't even gonna pay attention. But then if there's like a crowd around, or if there's just somebody that acknowledges that, then it's just like, oh, okay, I gotta perform, or I gotta say something. You know what I mean? Just because now my rep is on the line, just for those single words.
It's
man.
such an interesting dynamic, man.
It is.
The one thing I would love for you all to ask as like men who are leaders in the community, in your families, right, is would a reaction to that word be worth your freedom?
Oh, yeah, I get that. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But I just think,
Dang.
this world is fucking crazy.
It is.
And sometimes, in some situations, dog, you got to meet crazy with crazy in this world.
Why do you think so?
Man, because
You at war at that point?
Because at the end of the day, this world don't give a fuck. Like we're sane intellectuals, you know what I mean, who's actually thinking about that. Yeah. Like you're actually thinking hard about how that word should affect you as an individual. Yeah. Right? Now, is it worth going to jail? Is that how that defines me? You know what I mean? That's not really who I am. Mm-hmm. But in the grand scheme of things, this world is crazy, and the person that called you that ain't thinking like you.
Right.
So they ain't gonna give you the time to sit there and talk them through some shit that makes sense. You gotta say, nah, I ain't no fucking bitch.
Got it.
And this is why I ain't no fucking bitch. And I just can't let you walk around here thinking I'm a bitch.
So I'm gonna try to do something and try to marry those two kind of concepts together, because when you talk about masculinity, you say it takes all forms, right? Yeah. And I think if we look at masculinity in the traditional form, or at least how it has been in the past, stoic.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Showing no weakness. Do you think, so moving forward into this day and time, teaching those that are the youngins about what it means to be masculine, what does that look like?
I think it's less about teaching them what it means to be masculine. It's modeling different sides of like what it means to be human, right? So it would mean like what you just modeled was a level of vulnerability that people may not understand, right? But the ownership of saying, I don't even know, right? Like that is a very atypical form that men are trained. Like we're trained to have to know.
That's dope.
Like
have answers.
We're trained to do versus being. Right, being is in a space of contemplation. It's in a space of self-reflection. But we got to do, right? But the fact that maybe somebody, but like, what would it look like to teach your child? I'm talking about just children in general, the benefits of meditation, right? Like,
absolutely,
right? Like, what would it mean to teach your children not just the history of men, right, but to give your sons books about women?
Yeah.
Right. So I think you know this about me. So I spent 2 years only reading books written by women. 2 years. Right. And I typically read a book a month. So I'm a nerd. And the level of bullshit that I learned about myself, right, that I wouldn't see it as clearly if I'm only reading books by people who have a similar experience to me in the world. So what I would advise parents to do, right, is to not have a very narrow understanding of what it means to be a man or what it means to be a woman, right? But to be open to the complexity of what it means to be human, right? And not be afraid of weak and not overinvest in this idea of strong, right? So one of the things I think about a lot is when I watch. And I love Kevin Durant, so I'm going to say that first. Yeah. But I remember Kevin Durant, this was an old interview, but he was talking about his mom. And he was just like, she was a strong black woman. And then you hear every other person call their mothers strong black women, right? Which is fine, right?
Absolutely.
But they're not always strong. Mm-hmm. We're not always strong. What does it mean to value weak, right? What does it mean to value vulnerability? What does it mean to value male intimacy? meaning like, and when we say intimacy, I don't mean sex. Like intimacy, like what we're doing right now is actually male intimacy.
Yeah, sitting down and having open and honest conversation.
Yeah, right. But what would it mean if we named it as male intimacy? How uncomfortable would that be?
It would be.
Very.
Right?
Very.
People, yeah.
It'd be right. And again, what's underneath that? Like, what are we trying to run from and what are we trying to run to? It's actually no different from the pause word. It's actually no different.
No, that's
but you three love each other.
Yeah.
You really do. You love each other.
Right.
And you know what's interesting about that phrase, word, male intimacy? We took a trip to Arizona a couple weeks ago, and I had some one-on-one time with Big Herman. It was just me and him, and you know, Big Herm is the perpetual.
Yeah. Like if you took masculinity in the traditional sense,
Masculinity
it's as
at
masculine
100
as it gets.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And like we had an amazing conversation, one-on-one, vulnerable, talking about different things. And if I would have coined it male intimacy, you know, like it would have just been like, dude, what are you talking about?
All the progress y'all made would have went right out the fucking window.
Oh, if Coach Herman be like, no, that's not intimate.
No. And Coach Herman be like, we had a conversation.
No. And that's great that you said that way.
That's why Damien running around his house. He talk about male intimacy.
Yeah. He would say some stuff like
around your
that. Yeah.
Because we equate that to sexuality, and then when
Yeah.
you say intimacy with male together, that's like, oh,
It's
I'm
an
gay,
oxymoron.
or something like that.
But they have
you know,
nothing
I'm
to do with
queer.
each other.
They have
You know?
nothing to do with each other.
And part of it is like we fall in love with slogans so much.
We do.
We fall in love with just slogans, right? So I'll probably get in trouble for this one. Like, I don't like the term safe space,
Tell us why.
right? Like, let's say that all four of us say, I need a safe space, right? But what if we all have different definitions of what safe space is? How do we create that if we're going to be in the same room together?
You gotta set them rules from the jump.
Yes,
Right?
like an
Ground
alliance, you
rules.
have to have a
Right?
partner in the room.
And you got to be like, hey, like if Courtney does this, even though this wasn't on my safe space list, blah, 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 right? So all of us at some point, and this is something I learned from Bell Hooks too, is right, we got to stand in a circumstance of risk because that's what it means to live. That's what it actually means to be in the world is to live, right?
Man, you got
And
all
we're
these
constantly
sound
like risking stuff, right? So yes, we can ask for different types of things to create optionality, right? But to have a safe space means that you can't even walk out of your house. Because to Courtney's earlier point, like you're going to engage other people who have different definitions of safety, different needs, right? If there was someone in this group who was disabled, right? They would have a different need right now for a certain type of safety,
They would need a curb cut.
right? So what I want us to interrogate is like less of like what, like to interrogate what we do, but like interrogate the words that we're afraid of. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
like
absolutely.
male intimacy is a beautiful thing. We go to barbershops for male intimacy.
Now you talk.
We play sports oftentimes. What do you miss the most?
The locker room.
Oh, but the locker room.
That's the closest, man. And everybody's naked.
Yeah. So wait. With that being said, right there. Right?
I love it.
At what age did you realize that you were gay?
Sophomore year at Overland. I remember.
Okay.
I remember seeing this kid and looking at him in a way that I knew intuitively that if people knew that's the way I was looking at him, I would be unsafe.
And then,
Wow.
And then you said you tried to fight it.
Oh yeah, I spent many years performing ideas of heterosexual masculinity, right? Of going to strip clubs, having girlfriends, having intimate sexual relationships with women, right? The performance of masculinity or of heterosexual masculinity ain't hard, right? You know what I mean? Like it's not hard, right? Because it's everywhere, right? Like you all could perform maybe uninformed notions of being gay, you know, like you could. If I were to say, hey, like, what do you imagine when you think of someone being gay? You probably wouldn't imagine yourselves, right?
Nah, you're right.
But there's
You're
a
right.
spectrum, right? Like there are gay people who aren't the imagined stereotypical performances of being gay, right?
I'm saying, can I push back real quick? There are gay people who are like, let's just put it in one pocket. There are gay men that are extremely masculine.
Yes.
And misogynistic.
Yeah.
And so how do you square so
we all fall prey to patriarchy absent of being gay or straight, right? It's no difference from black people perform white supremacy.
Yep.
You're right.
You know what I mean? So I was dealing with lots of internalized white supremacy, lots of internalized patriarchy, lots of internalized homophobia. Like, I hated being gay.
Right.
Because in my mind, it had no value. Because everything around me said that Courtney wouldn't love me if he knew
that you was gay.
Yeah. Right.
And being that I've been in the locker room, right? We all have. We all been in the locker room. And in the 90s, but the 90s was kind of this dope era because I feel like it was very progressive, but it wasn't as polarizing as it is now.
Say more about that.
Like, you could not be like you coming out in a high school or college locker room in the 90s and saying that you were gay, it was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree with that.
But then
100.
if somebody, it would have been a major problem about it, right?
Right.
In the locker room space, right? But outside of the locker room space, and you came out, people still would have a problem.
It would still have been a
you.
problem in the 90s.
It would still been a problem, but it would have been a little bit more accepting to people in your peer group. Like,
yeah, I would agree.
So like if you were gay, like you had your homegirl, like it was gay people around, right? But I just felt like it was just this space to where things were changing, but then for a person, because honestly, I've gotten more conservative as I've had kids.
So that's what research says, that men get older. They get more conservative as we get older.
Like at least I felt like in the 90s, I just don't know. I think people just wasn't so maniacal, man, about things, man, which is cool. You know what I mean? But like, I can't say it's like for real. Like I can't so you talk about safe space, right? Like I couldn't say there's a lot of spaces where I couldn't say hey man, I'm sorry, I'm not that mature. You can't call me a bitch. And you heard me say that based off of your ideology on what on what words mean to an individual, right? In terms of how it makes you feel. And I'm saying, no, fuck that. I'm just not that mature yet. I could get in some spaces, motherfucker would sit there and talk to me about 45 minutes as to why I'm crazy.
So
I
would say that when people do that, they have yet to wrestle. Yes, it is oppressive, and they've yet to wrestle with the fact that they are you in many ways.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like I want to be very clear. I am no better because I can be called bitch and not get upset by it in court. Yeah. I want to be very clear about that, right?
Yeah, that's dope.
You know what I mean?
That's dope.
Because there's this idea, right, that if you have one piece of information more than one other person, then now you're better. Oh my God! Did you hear what? Blah blah blah. Yeah, right.
And that's where people get stuck.
Yeah.
I got one more piece of information than you do, so therefore I know more so I can lecture you as to why you're fucked up.
Right. Instead of having an honest discussion about it.
Yeah, but kind of back to the football locker room, coming out, especially transitioning into college. Because I'm going to be, man, hey, man, this is weird.
Keep it A1.
This is male intimacy. Right. It took me,
that boy put some bass in his voice when
I got to college, it took me, real talk, it took me about 2-3 weeks to be like, all right, I'm gonna put the shit down. I'm gonna take a shower with everybody.
Oh wow!
Like I would go to class. I go to meetings. I go full blown practice. I go to trade the table, and I'm like, I'm taking a shower at the crib.
For real?
Hell yeah!
But why do you think that is? Like, were you not comfortable in your sexuality?
Dude, I had just never experienced it before because that's how we did it in high school.
Proximity.
You went to school. You went to practice. You went home. It wasn't like you went to practice. Now everybody's taking a shower to go to dinner together, and then you go home.
So real quick,
did we shower together at Oakland?
That's what I was going to ask.
I did wrestling,
but
In football, no. Wrestling, yes.
Oh, so wrestling,
didn't-
you had to shower. Like coach made you shower.
I just
you just
showered.
want okay, got it.
Well, hey, man.
That's
I'm
no, because I
overrated.
didn't
Football, I
shower
wasn't ready.
until I got to college, but I
was
had no
ready.
problem showering with other guys.
I did. I had a problem, man.
But see, that's what's weird because, I mean, not weird. That's what I would question is why would you?
Dog, 'cause
He said he didn't have proximity
I
to
didn't
it.
have proximity. Seeing.
But I
Like-
mean, understanding going into that situation, like you understand why you're gonna take a shower, right?
Yeah,
Because you want to get clean.
Yeah, I understand. I understand the reason.
But so
for
you
taking
must
a
have been
shower. being
so. But I think the fear is like, and I don't want to speak for you. This is why I'm asking. Is
Yeah.
like, was the fear that, damn, I'm around other guys and I'm gonna see somebody's dong. And that just makes me uncomfortable.
I don't want to
That
be
just
that.
makes me
I don't want to be that.
uncomfortable.
I didn't want to be. So let's paint the picture.
Yeah.
What were the showers like at Regis?
What do you mean, just like wide open?
Yeah, yeah.
Regis
they were
showers
wide
were
open.
nice though, I bet.
Yeah, yeah. They was nice.
No, we do gotta. Because some people got, some places are smaller. They got curtains and shit.
No, they didn't have the
No,
curtains.
yeah.
This was wide
see,
open.
Yeah, so at 8, so that's what I'm saying. Arizona State was wide open. So Wade's right here, I'm right here, and we just taking a shower. And once I got comfortable with it, then you understand that ain't nobody looking at you. You know what I'm saying? But
And people are looking.
And they
Yeah.
are looking.
See,
like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, it's like
I didn't want nobody looking at me. Shit, dog.
gotcha.
And that's the fascinating piece, right? About like,
I wasn't comfortable.
yeah, no, I wasn't comfortable either, right? Every locker room I've ever been in since college, right? There have been jokes made about somebody else's genitalia on the team, right?
1000.
Which is a signal that everybody's looking, right?
Right.
But it's okay to joke about each other's Johnson or whatever, as long as everybody's assumed to be what?
Heterosexual.
Heterosexual. Right.
Linemen, so linemen would always do that shit.
Dude, they were linemen are gross.
Fucking
But
Damien
if there was a person in the locker room who was
Right.
openly gay, that would change the dynamic
Oh,
because
boy.
the perception is
Sound
that.
the alarm, right?
And what would the perception be if he was talking about someone's Johnson?
He likes me.
It'd be a
He's-
fight.
He likes
No,
me.
it's just he likes me.
Threat.
Right?
Wait, what? Say
It's a
again.
threat. Like either he likes me and that's questioning my sexuality, or it just feels like a threat at that point.
Yeah, but you all know, as I believe you all identify as heterosexual, that
Yeah.
every woman who you've seen naked, you're not attracted to, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So why
Absolutely.
would me as a gay man
But you
be
gonna
attracted
scan
to
it.
every man?
Absolutely.
But you gonna scan to see if you are attracted.
What do you mean?
Well, that's what we do.
A man
the
gonna
same thing
scan.
that-
That's what I'm saying. A man gonna scan to see. Okay, it got to be something on here. We're just ignorant like that.
Well, no, women and humans in general.
but you scan to other men though. Like that's the thing. like,
Wait, don't scan no other man.
no. You have
you
you've been
have.
in a locker room.
You think you have
I
it?
ain't scared.
Talk to him.
You've been in a locker room.
I ain't scared.
Talk to him, Wade. Yeah.
You've been in a locker room where you've seen another man's genitalia, right?
So you scared him.
Right? Like,
Talk to him, man.
That boy scared.
Wait. You
Saul,
ain't gonna be like
and-
every man scans.
and you've been in the streets.
Oh no, 1,000.
You scared.
1,000.
And you've been in the street and you'll see another man and in your mind you'll go, oh, that's a good looking dude. You may not say it out loud, but you recognize when another human being
is attractive.
like meets your standard of attractiveness.
Yeah, with their clothes on.
Yeah.
Agreed. But that's being comfortable with yourself. Like, so if you, like,
So Courtney,
Just in
did
a
you
locker
shower with
room
your
in
eyes
there.
closed?
What's that?
Did you shower with your eyes closed?
Oh no, I kept everything eye level, everything right here. Yeah.
and if somebody looked down, like, you
contact,
would be
eye
like,
contact.
yo, what
Hey,
are you doing?
You're a cornerback.
but
Your,
your eye-
peripherals are amazing. So no. You don't
Talk
make it
to
to
him.
Arizona
Wait,
State
no,
with that
wait,
amazing peripherals.
No, wait.
Bull, you play cornerback. I played it too. Your peripherals are probably at a level 10. So
Yo, Wade,
I
he's
know,
already,
I know what this is costing you, but you know I'm telling the truth.
Wade, he's already planning out like how you taking the towel off.
Hey, man,
what the size of the towel is, like how he wrap it around his waist.
Hey, but that towel was right there.
Hey, even if it's eye level, as you get further away, eye level, you scan it.
That is funny,
man.
man. That is
Hey,
funny,
man.
man.
That boy said you got good peripheral.
Peripheral.
Hey, I
Play
was,
corner.
That
Like
is
you
funny.
can't deny that your peripherals are like
see the field.
see everything around you. So get back to you, Wade. Getting back to you, man. When did when did you specifically? When did you let your close friends know that you were gay?
That's a good
really
question.
When did Damo know?
So I moved to New York City in 2004
Okay.
because I wanted to experience the world as a gay man. Because I wasn't like well known in Colorado, but in my mind I was known enough that if I went to a gay club, somebody might, is that Wade? You know, and I was too insecure.
Got it.
Right? I was too insecure to be able to go to those spaces. So I moved to New York. I had a very close friend who lived there. And I knew in New York that I could live with a certain level of invisibility, that I could go into a gay club and no one would know me. So I intentionally distanced myself from everybody.
Wow.
Everybody, right?
Okay.
And I'm not proud of that, but it's what I needed to do, right? I had to figure out, like, I knew what I was. I knew I was black. I knew I was attracted to men. I knew what I was, but I didn't know who I was.
Got it.
And I had to figure that out alone. Like, I didn't really want help. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I would say it's probably how y'all felt when you went to college alone, right? Like, you get to learn more about who you are, right?
I talked to my daughter about that.
Yeah. You know, so moving to New York, I went to my first gay club, and man, it was overwhelming. Like, it was too much. Like, the music, first of all, the music was terrible. I was like, can I get some Jay-Z up in this bad boy?
Got it.
You know, like, it was like the techno stuff,
As you
right?
in there rolling.
House music. Lights everywhere.
It was techno.
Yeah.
Like,
Got
it
it.
was really bad, right? And then I left there going, wow, like, I don't know if I fit in here either.
Got
You know,
it.
so I started to worry, would I ever find a place? And I got hyper lucky. I met a gentleman named Sid Ziegler, and he runs, I still think so, a website called Outsports. And Outsports is a place where gay athletes, or let me say LGBTQ plus athletes, he shares their stories, he elevates them, right? And I found out about this thing called the New York Gay Flag Football League.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Because again, I was so ignorant and so dealing with my own internalized homophobia that I didn't even think the gays played sports. I thought that I was like this anomaly, right?
Got it.
So I show up there, and Sid is like basically trying me out to see if I can join the team. And I'm thinking, like, are you like, you don't know who I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? But ego still, still on
10.
On 10, right? And then he takes me to a practice.
Okay.
And there were some gay dudes there who could ball. I was like, wow. And then I met like my first known trans person who could ball.
Got it.
I was just like, what in the world is going on? And I started coming to practices, and they welcomed me. They embraced me. I got proximate, right? And they forced me to ask myself a lot of really hard questions.
That's dope.
And at the same time, though, I was playing in this straight league that was rough touch, right? I mean, which was basically tackle.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Right? So I'm playing in both of these worlds, doing this thing that I love, and you become kind of schizophrenic. You know what I mean? Because
Like
I
a
was
code switch.
yeah. But
call, Jay.
it's exhausting. You know what I mean? It is, as y'all know, right? It is exhausting.
Oh, because you're free in one, but you're still trying to figure out.
I wasn't free in either, to be honest with you, because I was still, so we would play a game, right, in the gay league. I was so arrogant, man. Like, I would make a play. I remember me and this one dude, I was playing safety in this one play, and the ball went up in the air, and our bodies collided, right? And I picked the ball off, and he pulled my flag, but the guy who I collided with, he fell on the ground.
Got it.
And I looked down at him, and I said, you better get in the weight room, boy. Right? So I was still performing a certain level of toxicity,
Got it.
even in this space that was supposed to be welcoming to me, because I hadn't unlearned all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So I still wasn't free in that space either. You know what I mean? But that space, and then I got super lucky. I got this job at this LGBTQ youth center called the Hedrick Martin Institute.
Got it.
And that was where I was introduced to feminism, and feminism just cracked everything open inside of me. Like, reading feminist literature it explained what was happening in my mind, right? It explained to me why I would get uncomfortable if someone called me the B word. It explained everything, and I was just like, I don't want to be stereotypical, but I was like, women are so much smarter than us, because there was a level of comfortability in the vulnerability. You know
and
what I mean?
that's where the strength is, Wade. And you know what's so awesome about what you just explained is that you as a gay man, you were breaking down those own stereotypical barriers about being gay, right?
Inside of myself.
Inside yourself. What you thought it meant to be gay, or being in this league where you thought you had the one up just because you've been playing with, in a straight league where it's this bravado over masculinity. So when you come to the gay league, you're running shit, you're the big dog, right? So it's awesome to hear that you even had those stereotypes as a gay man. Going out there in New York to isolate and find yourself is amazing, man.
And to Courtney's point, which I really want to double down on, right, is when I realized that I'm no better, you know what I mean? Some of the same things that we might critique of other people, we've done them too.
Absolutely.
And I think part of the work of sitting in real community is for me not to think that I'm better, to try to hold up a mirror to you all, what I won't hold up to myself, right? Now, what I hope is because we sit in community and have these type of conversations, we all walk away going, never thought about that.
But that's the connector, though, Wade. What you
This
just said
podcast,
is the
bussin',
connector, is to
bussin'.
say that, look, we're all on even playing field. No one's better than anyone. We're having a healthy discussion. And I think a lot of times when you get a lot of people who are heavily intellectual, even in politics, because Jay and I was talking about this last night. I think sometimes on the far liberal side of politics, it gets too intellectual, and then you seem to miss the people who are in the middle, or who you're speaking to their issues, right? But you're so heavily intellectual with it, they can't even connect with it.
It's true.
To where on the more conservative side, they're like, look, we're going to meet you where you're at. So you can actually hear the whatever we're trying to get across. But I think the question I have for Damien is, how did you feel when Wade came out?
Yeah, that's
being
a great question.
Being teammates, being friends, sharing intimate space.
Disappointed. I think that's the first. So it's like this paradigm of being disappointed and proud, right? Almost like polar opposites. Because we wake up on said morning, former athlete Wade Davis comes out as gay.
Oh wow! So that's how you found out.
That's how I found out.
Got it.
So our boys from Weber State.
That's how most people found out.
The text threads going do.
They talking shit about Wade.
So real quick, is there?
They was going in on you, Wade.
No,
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
No, actually,
the shit
everybody was
talking-
supportive.
The shit talking
Okay,
was
good,
coming from
good.
is why he didn't tell
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
That's what I was
and
gonna
why we
ask.
had to find out that way.
Got it.
And why we had to find out by
And here's the thing, they knew why.
Yeah, and so the good thing is Wade confided in I believe one or two of our friends as a precursor. But Wade and I, we were close for years, right?
Yeah.
And I knew, and I asked you, and you got pissed at me. I know why now. It's clear as day.
So you questioned before
I
you
asked,
even came out.
in
Got
so
it.
many words, I asked him,
Yeah.
Negro, why do you listen to Whitney Houston before a football game?
But he never questioned the gospel music though.
Yeah,
Never
I
the
do.
gospel.
Never the gospel, but the
it was the
Whitney
Whitney
was
Houston.
the Whitney was sus.
But
But I'm gonna shoot you some bail because I'm with that. I wouldn't mind hearing Whitney Houston, man.
no, cool. Back to Wade's point about masculine culture in the locker room,
Yep.
there were certain things that we did before the game, and that's the way that my, let's just say, 30-year-old self thought at that time. And I'll never forget, we went to Jason Allen's wedding. That was the first time we saw each other.
Wow.
After you had came out. And I told you how proud I was. So there was a point of disappointment because Wade and I knew each other for so long.
Had so much history.
Had a lot of history, and it felt like he didn't trust me enough to be able to tell me. But then to be able to come out on this platform of there's three ways it could have went. Number one, you get completely ostracized, right? And you're like, and then you get on social media and people just completely tear you down. Or life goes on as usual.
Right.
Or you use your platform to freaking elevate. Guess what Wade did? Use this platform to elevate. And then next thing you know, he's being vulnerable. He's consulting. He's asking provocative questions. He understands his value in the marketplace. And then now I'm in a position where I'm looking at Wade and like, okay, what do I need to learn? Like, granted, I look at all my friends like this, and you all know this.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I do to level myself up? Like, what do I need to do to learn from this individual so that I can be a better person? I can be a better human. I can be a better black man, right? And,
this podcast
that evolved into meeting Wade's partner, who's Ben, who's dope, right?
Right.
And coming over my house for Thanksgiving, hanging out with my family, meeting my daughters, meeting my wife, all of that stuff. And so when we talk about like what you can tell I'm passionate about this shit.
No, I like it, man.
When you talk about like proximity and toxicity, is that a word? Toxicity, yeah. So you're toxic if you're not around it to understand like this person doesn't feel like they're human because they're this. Then proximity is this person actually is human and they have value in this world and they have value to me.
Now you pod.
And the thing about proximity, and it's something for you all to wrestle with, is like when you get proximate, you start to see yourself in that other person.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part, right? For certain people who are, it is also why that America is so segregated. Right. It's why you keep black people and white people apart, because white people will learn, and more they get close to us, is that we're so interconnected, right?
Humanize.
Right? But if you keep us segregated, you can't humanize it, right? It is why, the trans conversation about sports is such a fascinating one, because what the real question is should sports be segregated? That's what the underneath question is.
Now you pod,
right?
Man.
So if I think about the fact that Damon and all the fellows of us are on this text chain now, we're really proximate. But I have to also have compassion for not all of the guys on the text chain are at a place where some of the things that I say, some of the things that I do, that they might disagree with, but I need them to.
Yeah.
If they're not disagreeing with me, then we're not talking.
Being okay. Just being okay
with that.
Yeah, because if we're disagreeing, we are proximate. I'm touching you a little bit in that moment, right?
Absolutely.
And so the thing that I would say that it's hard for someone like Damo, meaning someone who was close to me, to understand is like, y'all did stuff that confirmed my suspicion that if I was open with y'all, that y'all might not accept me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like when you have friends that say pause, when you have friends that try to distance themselves from everything gay, you're signaling that you're not going to love me, right? And that might not be true, right? But I don't know. Right. You know what I mean? It's just like when you are driving in a car and the cops pull you over, right? You don't know if this cop is one of the good ones in quotes or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So but you are, so being proximate just helps us wrestle with our own bullshit. Yeah. Is what being proximate. It's just like being in a relationship with your partners, right? They mirror back who you really are.
They do.
Like you learn more about yourself in a relationship than anybody else.
We just talked about this.
Yeah.
No, that's so. I'm smiling over here because like the way that you are passionate about this and you lived it, it goes back to that male intimacy that you were talking about earlier, and you were in fear of losing that just because of the subliminals from your friends of like, as an example, I'm not saying they were saying pause, but like something like that.
Yes.
When those things come up and you like pause, for you personally, that's an attack in some capacity of like.
It's a microaggression.
I wouldn't
Or
say it's an
microaggression.
attack. I would say I'm trying to put myself back in my younger years.
Mm-hmm.
It was a signal. I would say it was more of a signal that I couldn't trust that you were going to love me.
Got it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So
I'm with you.
I wouldn't, like, the subliminals are less of an attack. They're just says, don't go there.
Got it.
You know?
This may be the limit to our relationship.
Right.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly.
And I love my friends, and I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
risk that for my own sexuality.
That's a beautiful way
or
to
your
say
own
it.
safety.
Because even in relationships, right? Even marriages, relationships, friendships, you're like, I can't tell this person that I feel this way about X, because it might be too much for that person to handle.
At this point.
And now they don't want to fuck with me.
Yep.
And I love the
this
language of
person.
at this point, right?
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
it continues to grow
Over
and
time.
evolve, right? Now, there's probably not much me and Damo can't talk about. Now, that's not way for everybody in my life,
Right.
right? Because, like, I have, like, one of my cousins, Big D, right?
Oh yeah.
I can push the boundaries with him. Like meaning like, so how you all could probably talk to each other about your personal, intimate sex lives with your partner, right?
Right.
Maybe not everybody on that text chain is there, right? But I do have heterosexual identified friends who I could, right? Because there's a certain level of comfortability that they have within themselves that me talking about that doesn't make them feel any type of way.
Kind of way.
Or
that is dope, man.
Or they can
that
have
is so powerful. Though.
Or they can have that conversation with you,
Yeah, yeah,
like you only.
yeah.
That is,
You know what I mean?
man.
Because y'all have that relationship.
Yeah.
It might be to where, okay, yeah, I love Wade. That's my dog. That's my family. I can have that conversation with him, but I can't have the conversation with the next gay guy just sitting at the bar, and then now he's just talking to me about this stuff, and it may make it's in that instance, it still may make them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Boundaries kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Everybody has boundaries. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
wait, has Damien done an atomic push-up? I mean, sit-up.
He was a part of the equation.
You ready?
He was a part of the theatrics.
done an atomic sit-up.
So wait. What part did you play in the theatrics?
Hey,
The convincing,
Yes.
like the hyping Damon up, right? Because like it's that hype up phase that you really got
hey,
to
Wade
do.
was Kirk Franklin.
Exactly.
So
You get everybody up.
So Damo did one.
No.
It'd be okay if you did.
It's
though.
okay. Wait.
No,
It's okay. if you
Why is
did,
it okay
though.
if you did an atomic sit-up?
No, I didn't do the atomic sit-up.
Why not? You never been a part of that?
Oh yeah.
No, you
No.
didn't do the sit up.
No.
Why not?
Okay. Nobody asked you if you could do one.
No. I
Your belly was too big?
yeah.
No, because here's what happened, right?
I was the master plan.
Once you get one person,
Everybody else.
everybody knows, so you got to wait till the next year.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I got you.
Yeah, because it spreads quickly.
I got you. I got you.
So I played a very heavy role in the atomic sit-up.
What role? Though?
And-
Were you the main role? The most important role?
Hey, to be determined, man.
Supporting.
And Wade,
We'll talk about
Wade
that
was
off
the supporting
camera.
cast.
Talk about
Because the one that
off
does the
camera.
sit up is the main character, the main actor. Were you the supporting?
No, actually, they're the victim.
Well, that's what I mean. Is the story's about them, and
Yeah.
then somebody has to do the sit up.
There's a protagonist and there's many villains
Yeah.
in this process.
There we
There's many
go.
villains in this
Yeah.
process.
So, getting back to, because I want to make sure that you get this message out, and you've said it numerous times about being a feminist.
Yes.
And within your TED Talk, you said, it was a powerful quote, that women can't be equal until men, I forget how you said it, but it was like we can't have equality in women until men recognize equality in themselves.
Yeah. So, as long as men don't see the value in all human beings because we're in control, right? Women will always be fighting for something. You know what I mean? So, let's put it in racial standpoints because that's probably the simplest way to say it, right? white people have to give up their name, mainly like, and this is what his name is Ta-Nehisi Coates says, right? Like white people have to give up the idea of whiteness.
Got it.
Right. Men are going to have to give up our love of patriarchy, of being in control, of being dominators, right? To understand that there's a lot that we could gain, that we can learn, that we can grow, right, from sitting in a society that is more equal for women, right? Because as long as we think that we have to distance ourselves from the stereotypical feminine, right, then we always are going to believe that they're less than us, right? You know what I mean? So if in your household, if in every household there are gender roles that men have to play, that we have to be the dominant person, right? If that is where it has to be, right, then that's going to perpetuate how we show up in the workplace. That's going to perpetuate how we make laws, right? So, like, there is no law on the books that tells what a man can do with his body. But we have many laws about women's bodies. There's laws on the books about what gay people can do, right? So there are sodomy laws, right? But there are no laws that are rooted in, like, the oppression of heterosexual men who are white identified. They just they don't exist, right? So when we're thinking about abortion rights, right? Like, men have to realize that this is something that we have to be fighting for too, that this is not a woman's issue. That it's not, I'm not being as inclusive of our trans folks, and I apologize for that. But like, that all of us have a stake in this. Like, all of us really fundamentally, they do. Because what and Gloria Steinem, she taught me this. You notice I'm trying to give folks credit, right?
No, absolutely.
Because one of the things that we do is, right, we'll use specifically the language of black women, and we'll hear it and they'll say something really genius, and then we'll take it up as ourselves, and then because of the maleness aspect of it, somebody like, Wade is so smart. No, I got that from this person, right? But what Gloria Steinem says is that those in power exploit the bodies of the marginal class, right? So you exploit the bodies of black women and Latinx women, right? Because the economy needs cheap labor. It needs it, right? Absolutely. But then you restrict the bodies of the master class women, right? So because we all know that white women actually have more abortions than black women, right? And we've all heard of the great replacement theory, right? So if we get rid of abortion, right, and now white women are having more babies, right, then the idea that the country will be more brown in 2030, right, goes away. So the abortion fight is only about maintaining white dominance, but it's through the vehicle of women, right? So like, we just have to get underneath a lot of these things that we got to be comfortable, for example, of a Black Lives Matter movement that is led by 3 women, 2 of which are queer. How can we as men find our space in there to be led by women, right?
And be comfortable with that.
Yeah. And be comfortable, right? Like, can we be comfortable even in our own homes of sitting in a space of mutuality? I'm not saying that equality in your home is possible, right? Because there's going to be some times where your partner's sick. There's not equality there. Right? But there's a mutuality where you sit and talk and say, like, this is what's good for our household, right? And that because I think you mentioned this on one of the podcasts, right? And you did too, that you sit with your partner and you talk about it in a way where you're creating a certain level of mutuality. Because equality is just not possible. Like, in my household, my partner does more of the household chores. Right? He just does, right? It's probably like, he would say 99.1%. I would say it's probably like 80-20, right? But because of the way our work schedule is set up,
right, he can do that.
Or it works out that way.
But there has to be a discussion and an ownership of, like, this is the labor that you're doing. How do I honor that labor to not make you feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing?
That part, because that is what I try to do my best. Because similar situation in my household of, like, okay, I got to put value into that and not diminish that.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to work getting, you know, a healthy salary, and I'm providing that way, and that's what's the most important thing, right? At least that's how we think about it mentally through capitalism in our society. And how do you flip that and say, okay, you being the more domestic, taking care of the kids and running errands, taking them to practice, like there is equal value in that
there's
to what I
great
do.
value in that, because could you be able to do your job if all these things weren't happening?
Probably not.
Yes, go court.
Oh, and not only that, would I be willing to actually switch the role and let my wife do what I do, and I do that? You know what I mean? And be comfortable in doing that.
Those are the questions, because if you're not comfortable, then you're not valuing it. Go ahead, court. Give us something. Uh-oh.
Now you pod.
No, I'm all right.
No, come on, bro.
No.
Come on,
Like
bro.
this adds to the conversation.
But it sounds like, again, but you're falling into stereotypical gender roles.
But
in a heterosexual relationship. Now,
there's a discussion about it, though.
Yeah.
So y'all talked about it and said, this is why this is the way it is, or did it just organically happen that way?
I think it's both.
Based off of gender.
I think it's both.
For me, it is a little bit of both. And this is what I'll say, is that implicitly, because I do what I do, I'm not going to throw figures out there or anything. And I'm trying to make the space for my wife to kind of have the same aspirations that I do from an economical standpoint, so she can do whatever she wants to do, right? So when she's going to school and things like that, I'll do my best effort to do more of the things that she traditionally does or has done in the past. It's like, nope, I'll make sure I take the kids where they got to go certain days of the week, and we'll work it out as far as our schedules. Sometimes my ego gets into play of like when those arguments come in, I try to reserve the things you got in your back pocket, right? Like, okay, like depending on what you say, like I'm just going to flex because I feel like for dumb reasons and ego, I got to win, or I just can't be submissive and docile. Like that's not my role because whatever reason. So to answer your question, honestly, Ko, that's kind of where I try to be as equal as I can, and I'm working on it. But somewhere in the back of my mind is still that traditional of like, I'm a breadwinner, I'm the man of the house. So there's opportunities or scenarios I'll flex.
And the more that y'all talk about it, the easier it'll be for you to take ownership of it, right? So what would it look like for you to go home and be like, you know what? Sometimes when I do X, Y, and Z, like I recognize my ego happens, right? Like just putting it out in the air helps you control it. You know what I mean? Like, because if you don't talk about it, you can't control it. You know, so my partner and I, we talk about this a lot, and oftentimes it is me having to own the fact that, yeah, you are doing more, and I need to do more. I don't believe that the work that I'm doing is more valuable. I fundamentally can name that. It is me making it a priority, you know, and prioritizing also that he don't want to do this either.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So what stops you from prioritizing it?
Ego.
And that ego falls into what? The masculinity side of it. Regardless if it's a heterosexual relationship or a gay relationship. A lot of times, if you feel like you're the breadwinner and you feel like you're the man of the house, because the way I see it, I could be totally wrong, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Wade. And a gay relationship has the same dynamics as a heterosexual relationship.
It definitely can.
There's going to be one that's going to be more forceful, have more bravado, have more of that shit. I'm saying a manly role, more like, you know, I don't know, aggressive role to things.
What'd you say, manly role?
Yeah, more of a manly role, right? And why is that? Because you make more money, because, you know what I mean? You
take money out the equation.
But money's always going to be the equation.
To Courtney's point,
but what if the woman's the breadwinner? Go ahead.
Courtney's point.
But if a lot of times when the woman's the breadwinner, she takes on those masculine traits.
That's interesting.
To both of their points, it's about what do we value in the relationship, right? We have been socialized to value being the person who's bringing home the money as more important, right? We don't pay people who are the caretakers at home. We don't actually pay them, right? So in our mind, we're socialized to think that it actually matters less, right? Imagine if the government or institutions paid people who do stay-at-home work. It would change the concept in our mind because, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because now you see this person contributing in a different way monetarily because it's a capitalistic society. But you all know that the work that your partners do in the home is actually potentially harder, right? It's more taxing, which is why we don't want to. Which is why we don't want to do it. But when men create a society, right? This is back to the idea of patriarchy, right? Men create a society and structured in a way where the things that they do get more value.
And wait, just and I don't, dude, that is so really the way you said that, man.
This
And
podcast,
for me,
bussin'.
that's what I'm realizing, that value of that my wife brings specifically, because if it wasn't for her, like my kids do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like they're in the arts, they're in the sports, and in order to kind of schedule that, take them there, that takes a lot of time, right? And so in my mind, I won't say masculinity or anything like that, but in my mind, I'm just like, I got to focus on work, because I got career aspirations. I want to do this and that. And when I do that, I get rewarded. Your motivators might be money or whatever it might be to reach a certain stature. And I'm realizing that the work that she has been putting in thus far of like doing those things, my kids have a different value of life that my parents definitely provided for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that. They've done great things for me. But her giving her time and sacrifice to make sure those kids get the best out of life, like there is no price on that. Like when
it's
you
a life
see
of
the
purpose.
results, you're like, oh shit.
Oh no, it's
Great.
priceless.
And
It's priceless.
and here's we learn gender roles or patriarchy in the home first. Right. Because if you grow up as a child in a heterosexual household and the father's going out to work and the mother stays home, right? That is the introduction to gender roles, right? So we as parents and as people who care for children have to figure out, how do I have those conversations? How do I make sure that my child doesn't only see these things happening? How do I make sure that I do the dishes? How do I make sure that there are times where the other person is out of the house doing things and I talk about it in an affirming way, right? That I don't deprioritize in my mind, right? That this, to your point, this work has value. But you got to be intentional about it.
You got to.
And I think that's where my perspective that's why my perspective is a lot different than a lot of other people, is because I didn't see that growing up. So, my mom, no secret, single mom. My mom had to play several different roles, right? She had to be a working professional who had aspirations. My mom had to show me, or at least give me exposure on how to be a man, right?
Right.
My mom had to be the best coach possible to teach me what a man was, even though she had no idea. Right?
Oh, she did.
No,
me.
No, she did, but she didn't, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And so, like, when you talk about like people talk about like gender roles and stuff like that, I don't get caught up in that. Like traditionally, like some people say, cooking and doing dishes is the role of a woman. I have no problem. I love cooking. Actually, that's my escape. Doing dishes, when you cook, you clean. Like, I have no problem doing the dishes.
Right.
But like, there's people who live in that space where they're like, yo, I can't do that and I won't do it. And that's cool. Like, but that's you. But this is just my experience growing up.
Yeah, but here's real time. So here's real time and how it played out, how a situation played out in my life. Like, I have my kids all the time. And it's funny. So Caroline was out doing something. I don't know what Caroline was doing. She was like literally gone all day, right? So, matter of fact, this was last week, and I had the kids with me, right? And all my boys is calling me. James is hitting me. You know what I mean? Waz hitting me like, yo, like, what you doing? Let's ... And I'm like, oh man, I'm chilling. I got the kids.
Right.
So I get up Sunday morning, and I'm sitting at the table. I'm drinking my tea, And Champ, my son, he comes to me. He goes, he looks at me. He looks at me right in my face. My son's 5, my daughter's 1, and he says, "You know what, Dad? Thank you for watching us."
That's dope, man.
No. So listen to what he said, though.
Absolutely.
I said, Champ, we were hanging out. Like,
Good. Yeah, I missed
Yeah.
it.
you're my son.
Right.
I'm not watching you, dude. I'm babysitting you. Like, I'm not babysitting you. I'm not watching you. Like
This is my duty.
This is what I do as a parent,
We
right?
hang out, man.
And it's like, well, damn, is that how my kids see me? And then even my dad. So I'm talking to my dad, and my dad said, my dad's like, "Oh man, you babysitting today." And this is real life gender role shit that, like, when it comes to being a man, you're never looked at as really, like, it's different for Damo because you was a single father at one point. You know what I mean? But, like, you're never really looked at as really being the character. Your gender role isn't really looked at in terms of being the rearing, like the rearing of young children.
No, Mom.
Like, yeah, like when your kids gets to, a certain age, you see them with their pops a lot. You know what I mean? Like, actually kind of showing them the ropes. But a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old out and about doing stuff, you're babysitting.
And think about it, at 5 years old,
They picked that
they
up.
already know that. So when folks say, "What's the age to talk to my kids about stuff?" From the beginning, because they're noticing it, right? Like I'm sure this has happened to you, right? You've been out with your children, and somebody like, "Oh my God, it's so cute!" Like, because it's an anomaly for a father to do those types of things, and it's sad to be honest that we live in a society that men need to be praised and rewarded for doing things that they just should do.
Should be doing.
So we have about 10 minutes left, and just want to open the floor up for you.
Great conversation.
This has gone much longer than we thought. No, in a
this
good
has
way.
been one of the best interviews, man. Like, we've been having a blast.
What do you have for us?
I would say the one thing I don't want to leave this conversation without is unpacking the idea that black people are more homophobic than any other race of people, because it's not true. I want to say that unequivocally, right? That there is a narrative that's perpetuated amongst us, not sometimes in between our community, but like definitely external to internal, that black people are more homophobic. It's not true. And I'll back it up with stats, right? There are laws on the books in many states, right? Some southern and some northern, right? That it was against the law to have gay sex, right? Like, these were called anti-sodomy laws.
Got it.
Black people have never had the political power to put any of those laws on the books. So who put them laws on the books?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
All white men.
Right?
Yep.
But we're thought of as being more homophobic, right? So I want us to really, when we hear things like that, to go, homophobia is in every community, right? It might look different, right? But it is everywhere. So that's one. The other thing that I probably want to get out there is the importance of not just talking to our daughters about certain conversations, but making sure we're talking to our sons, right? So you'll hear someone go, "Oh, I need to talk to my daughter about men and safety and all that stuff."
Right.
Talk to your son too, because he's probably the one who was going to commit the actual act, right? So what does it mean to talk to our sons about rape, about sexual assault, about all of those actual things, right? So how do we start to have those conversations from a very young age? Because our boys are taught far too often that women are what they're supposed to be aspiring towards, right? That if you don't have sex with girls by a certain age, that you're X. Right?
Got it.
So we start to strip away, right, the beauty of exploration from our children, because we call them little man, or you the man of the house. No, this is a child.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like let this child
Grow.
explore and grow, right, and experience life, because like that's what children need to become themselves. You know?
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, I would say like that. Oh, the other thing. When we think about us as black men sitting in community and partnering with with black women and women or LGBTQ folks, right? Our role is not to help them. Mm-hmm. Our role is to remove the barriers out of their way so that they can exhibit their own agency. So there's a quote by this indigenous Australian activist named Leela Watson. It's what I utilize in my work as an inclusion person. And she says, if you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because our liberations are bound together, then let's get to work. So we can't talk about black folks without talking about black trans folks. We can't talk about any of these conversations about getting black folk free unless we're starting at those who sit at the margins. So we have to get comfortable educating ourselves on what does it mean to be trans, and we got to be comfortable in our spaces saying, hey, no. When you think about black freedom, let's think about freedom for black women, black trans folks. And if we're not comfortable with that, then we're actually not comfortable really with black folk being free. We're actually not. We're comfortable with a certain type of black person being free, which is no different from what white people have done to us historically, right? Like they'll allow some of us spaces in rooms, but if you don't bring all of us, then I don't want any of it. Yeah, so that's the last thing I was saying.
And
This podcast,
just
bussin'.
over here
Like,
spitting quotes. Yeah.
And so I was very intentional in this episode to take a back seat just because we have conversations like this all the time. And I thought it was much more powerful for you all to ask the questions that was important to you. And there was some dimes in there. So thank y'all for
appreciate you, man.
for bringing the
Damo.
heat. And Wade, for you, we can't express our gratitude for you supporting Lawrence and Larimer, supporting this.podcast. We can't do it without people like you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Like
applause.
I'm a fan of this show. I'm not like someone who's just on here because I'm only 2 episodes behind, and y'all got a lot of episodes. And I've seen almost all of them. And what I will say that gives me the most joy is when you all model a certain level of black male intimacy when you don't even know it.
Yeah.
So I would just continue to do that, right? Because you all have something really special. There's a lot of shows out there on YouTube and on television and stuff, right? This one is really special.
Yep.
And what I love about it is y'all are so different. You know what I mean? And I don't think you understand, I love you, but you're probably my favorite person on this on the show, right?
Nice.
Because and I don't think you see it, right? But there's a level of vulnerability that you offer that I don't think that you even value. That I just want you to just go away and think about. We really love you to go away and think about what does Wade really mean when he's saying I model a level of vulnerability.
That's what's up.
Man, what we talking about?
I want to figure out how I can partner with you all to keep elevating this. You know what I mean? Just because the fact that you dreamed this up, right, and brought other folks with you, which you didn't have to. You know what I mean? And you all are giving your time, which is something that you can't replace. You can replace the money that you all are giving here.
We talked about
right?
this.
Yeah,
but the time investment. So, really use me as much as you can to figure out what do I have, what can I give, right? To continually elevate this, and other guests too. You know what I mean? I'm willing to pay money to fly people out here just so they can sit on this show. I will make that commitment. Plus, I got a lot of sky miles. Right? But I want y'all to be successful, man.
Yeah, and
continue to be successful.
Yes. And it's interesting is because that's the last question that we always ask is considering your experience at Lawrence and Larimer at this.podcast, who would you recommend to be on the show?
Wow. So many people I could think of.
We said Mike Jennings for sure.
Yeah, Mike J for sure. I'm thinking of so many different people. Is there a topic that you all want to get to?
No. We keep it broad.
But I mean, though, I'm sure that I'm the first person that you've had to have this black-gay conversation, and I use the word black and gay on purpose because I'm black before I'm gay, and I'm comfortable saying that. But is there a conversation or a topic that you all say, I wish that we could have it, and I don't know, you know what I mean? Because then I could think about an actual guest.
So we just think about dope people with compelling stories, man.
And since you've been watching, I would say, do you think there's something we're missing that we haven't brought somebody's story on that needs to be represented? And that might be a loaded question.
No, I would love y'all to bring a black trans person on here.
If you know somebody,
I know plenty.
tag them, and like we would ask, like in terms of
Bussin'.
amplification, when we post this, on your story,
I'm gonna blast it.
Yeah.
You're gonna
I'm
blast
blast
it?
it. Seriously. So my
This
honor to you is I will do my
podcast,
work to get a black trans person on here. My ask of you all is to do your work like you did on me, to do it on that issue ahead of time, so that you can create a certain level of psychological safety, right? That this person trusts, that you will handle them with a certain level of care, similar
100%.
to what y'all did with me.
We talked about that. Remember that episode, Psychological Safety? We should re-release that one.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
Wade, man, we can't thank you enough. Round of applause. Give you your flowers. Everything that you do is amazing. And you never stumble upon the unexpected if you stick to the familiar. So go out there and change it up and support.
And bring your hoochie daddy starters.
This podcast was